Aloha everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dolphin Quest Live here at Dolphin Quest Hawaii. You are joining us in the Hilton Main Lagoon today. If you've caught any of our previous episodes, you'll notice that this is the same exact place we've been the past few times. And right now you're looking at the beautiful, beautiful face of some of our dolphin family. This is my best friend in the whole world, Halkeia, and her mom Pele right beside her. These two ladies joining us today to start off our Facebook Live this morning. Halkeia. All right, team, today we're going to be talking about a few different things. And what we're hoping to introduce you to are some things you might not know about dolphins. How many of you knew that dolphins are actually mammals, which means they're more closely related to us than they are fish? Today we're going to be talking about the 5 characteristics of a mammal, and we're going to be heading into the water so that some members of our dolphin ohana here can show that to you. So let's head on in, you guys. We'll introduce you to the ladies that are going to be joining us today. On the left, my friends, we've got Halkeia and her marine mammal specialist, Lauren, with a surprise appearance from her brother, Malu. And on the right, my friends, we have Ali, joined by Halkeia's mom, Pele. Halkeia is one of the youngest members of our family here. She celebrates her 4th birthday this year in November. All right, team, let's head in a lot closer. That way we can go join these guys in the water and start talking about some cool things. Now, as we go today, guys, please feel free to chime in with any questions you might have. At the end, we'll see if we can circle back around to those and answer some more questions for you all. That way we can interact with you guys live. So keep on coming, and we can go all the way up there with them, Lori. All right, guys, so one of the very first things we're going to talk about are one of the sort of harder to spot things on dolphins, but one thing that all mammals have in common. Now, if you guys take a look at your arms, most of you, if you touch your head, you'll notice that there's a little bit of hair up there. We've got a Vidal Sassoon model over here. Guys, we're going to come all the way up close with Miss Halkeia so that you can see the little hair follicles on either side of her rostrum. Now, if you tuned in, you'll notice that the rostrum is the name for the bottlenose part of the dolphin. On either side of that rostrum, you'll see some tiny little dots. Those are actually hair follicles. So when dolphins are first born, they're born with tiny follicles of hair, very similar to vibrissae that we believe help them find their mom and their mammary glands so that they can nurse when they're younger. So these tiny, tiny little dots on either side, a little bit harder to spot. Is where Halkeia used to have a tiny little mustache when she was first born. Now, after the first week or so, those things will start to fall off, so they won't have those for their entire lives. But they are born with hair, just like we are. Now, all mammals have hair. That is true to every single mammal in the whole entire world. Another thing that mammals all have are going to be breathing air. So, perfect. We'll come in nice and close. If you take a look, Miss Pele is going to be showing you a few things involving how she breathes air. Now, a lot of people have the misconception that dolphins actually, and whales, as a matter of fact, spout water from that blowhole. If you take a look here, Pele's going to give you a big sneeze right in front of the camera. Nice. Now you can see that that's just a big old breath of air, you guys. So if there's any water that seems like it's spouting off the surface of that head, it's going to be anything that just might be laying right on top of her blowhole. You can see there is a little dip in that covering there as well. So sometimes there can be water there as they come up to take that breath. And these guys can actually fill those lungs in less than a second. So as they're taking those really quick breaths, it's very, very possible that some of that air, water that's residual on top could just spray right off. Nice, you kind of see it there too. Now, you'll also notice that just like us, because she is a mammal, she's going to be holding her breath while she's underwater. Now, dolphins are conscious breathers, which means dolphins have to think about every single breath they take. You'll notice her down there blowing a few bubbles. But as she comes back up, she'll close that blowhole off and then wait to inhale until she comes up to the surface. You can see it right there. So all of the breathing comes in and out of the blowhole, which means no air is actually coming in or out of that mouth. Now, one thing that's also very interesting about dolphins and that blowhole is that they don't actually have a sense of smell. So they're going to be breathing from that blowhole, and that's also where they're going to be making those noises from, because that's where that air is coming in and out of. Could we see a few dolphin noises, or hear a few dolphin noises, Allie?
Absolutely.
All right, guys, now as Pele flips around, I want you to take a look at this blowhole as it's wiggling right on top of her head. Now you can see that the covering on top of her blowhole wiggling. As we talked about a few episodes ago, these guys actually have 2 air sacs in their melon that help to manipulate the size and shape of that blowhole so that as they let their air out, they can make all kinds of different noises from there. All right, so we've got 2 things covered so far. We've got tiny little hairs that they're born with. We've got all mammals breathing air. Now, another thing that is unique to all mammals is that they're all actually warm-blooded. So that means that they can produce their own body heat. Unlike some reptiles that have to lay out on a nice warm surface, Pele can actually produce her own body heat using that big, powerful heart in there and pumping all of that blood through her body. Now, one thing we can see with these guys is as they're active, just like us, when we're active, our cheeks will start to flush. So you can see that blood circulating through our system. Same thing with these guys. You can see that blood start to flush as they become more active. However, it's on that belly. All right, team, I'm gonna take a step back and let you guys see a bit of an exercise session. That way we can perhaps see if we can see any pinkness, any flushing to that belly right here. So take a look as Pele and Haukea move and groove a little bit this morning. Hitting those speeds of about 18 miles an hour at their fastest. And then using those flippers to stop on a dime. Now this is where that echolocation comes in really handy. So those same noises they're making to do that echolocation will be coming from that blowhole area as well. Underwater, they're passing through the melon, which is the forehead part of the dolphin. And as those sounds bounce off of their environment, they're gonna return back to the dolphins, hit them square in the jaw, and then travel up through that jawline into the inner ear, where these guys can then create a 3D image of their environment, all by using those sounds. Now, what I want you to do, guys, is get a little bit closer. Take a look at Haukea, who is the closest to us right now. You can see that belly really starting to get pink here this morning. So you can see that skin starting to flush just like ours does when we're starting to be active as well. Now, dolphins also utilize something called counter-current heat exchange. Remember that one. That will be a Jeopardy answer one day, I promise you. So, when we start to get active, we flush, but we also sweat. Now, dolphins living in the water aren't actually going to do any sweating. Instead, what they're going to do is regulate the direction of that blood flow towards their extremities. So, if you take a look at Miss Pele and Lauren here, we'll get a close-up view of her dorsal fin so that we can talk a little bit more about how that counter-current heat exchange works. So as you can see, Pele, her skin's actually pretty similar to ours. Main difference being it's about 15 to 20 times thicker. However, this dorsal fin area right here, as you can see Lauren motioning to, is a little bit thinner, right? That's made of a fibrous connective tissue, very similar to cartilage. So there's actually no bones in there. And if these guys were going to try to regulate that temperature, say they wanted to cool off a little bit, what they would do is send that blood towards those extremities, which includes the dorsal fin there. It's also going to include the flippers on her sides. You can see those flippers right there. Now those guys do have bones in them, flippers do have bones. However, they're sending all of this blood towards those extremities where the surface area is a little wider, a little flatter, doesn't have to get through, the cold water doesn't have to work its way through so much blubber, and they can cool off that bloodstream really, really easily. Now, on the flip side, if they wanted to warm up, what they're gonna do is bring all of that blood flow in towards the core where they've got that blubber to protect it, all the way up here in between those flippers near that heart as well. And then that way they can warm that body up a little bit more easily. So that's how these guys are regulating that temperature as they're moving, as they're diving. Now this ecotype of bottlenose dolphin is a shallow water ecotype. So these guys are going to be regulating their temperature a little bit differently than those deeper divers because they're hunting in waters about 6 inches or less. So they'll regulate that temperature a little bit differently.
Erica, how do you tell the dolphins apart?
Yeah, so one thing you'll notice if you get up close, the way we tell these dolphins apart is by looking at their big, beautiful faces. Scientists can very accurately tell them apart by those unique markings on those dorsal fins and on those tail flukes. However, because we spend so much time here with them every day, because we have such strong relationships with these guys, we can get up close and personal and not only see the unique differences between each and every single tail, but we can see the unique differences between each and every single face here as well. So as Pele flips around here, as she takes a look at us, you'll notice on the tip of her rostrum, it almost looks a little bit like she's got some duck lips. Look at that pout. Get them, girl. Fashionista. So this pink spot on her rostrum is one way that I can tell her apart from other dolphins. But after working with them so long, it becomes very obvious. All right, guys. So we've talked about hair. We've talked about breathing air. We've talked about being warm-blooded. 3 things that all mammals share. Another thing that all mammals share is live birth. So I don't know if any of you noticed, but if we take a look at Pele's stomach, you'll notice a big old belly button right in the middle. Now, we all have those belly buttons because we were all born alive as well, which means we had an umbilical cord that attached us to mom so that we could thrive in the womb. And then when we came out, we just took our first breath and we're off into the world. So you'll notice Pele's belly button right there as well, signifying that there was an umbilical cord there. And she was not born from an egg, she was born alive. Now, the last way that all mammals are interconnected is that they all actually nurse their young. So we'll take a trip a little bit farther down so we can take a look at this area. Now, that's very important for a few reasons. You'll see one long line in the middle, 2 smaller lines on either side. Now, the long line in the middle is where the baby will be born, where she'll use the restroom. And those 2 smaller lines on either side are actually called mammary slits. Inside there is a mammary gland, very similar to a nipple where the baby can latch on to drink milk from. So what we would like to do is see if we can take a look at that tongue, because that tongue plays an important part in babies drinking milk. Come on over, we're gonna join Allie and Malu.
Do we have any babies that are nursing right now?
We do have a few little ones that are nursing right now. Halkea, who you saw at the beginning of our episode today, is still nursing from Pele. And we do have a newborn as well. She's about 7 months old, just about actually, and she's still nursing from mom for about 90% of her nutrition right now. Now guys, as we get up close with Malu, you'll notice that tongue and that mouth, nice, actually has little fringes on either side of it. So those little frills are going to allow that tongue to curl up like a taco and interconnect. You notice those mammary slits were very small. So they're gonna have to make a straw with that tongue so that they can just get mom's milk in there. Now, dolphins are mammals just like us, so they don't want any of that salt water to get into that mouth when they're trying to nurse. They strictly want milk. So they'll curl that tongue up like a taco, interconnect those little frills on either side, and that'll make a straw, a watertight straw, for them to be able to use underwater as they're nursing. Now, we're gonna bring it over to you guys for a few questions before we wrap up here today. But before we do, I just wanted to do a quick recap, you guys, of a few things that we talked about this morning. So we're joined by Pele, Halkea, and Malu, a big old family here, as well as Lauren and Allie this morning, talking about the 5 characteristics of a mammal, which are, we all have hair, we all breathe air, we're all born alive, we all drink milk from our moms, and we're all warm-blooded. All right, Chloe, you ready? All right, folks, we want to thank you for joining us today on this episode of Facebook Live. You can expect to see us every day at 9:30 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time. Keep chiming in with those questions. We want to shout out a few people that were watching us today. Cheyenne and Wyatt, thank you for joining us this morning. And as we're wrapping up here today, I invite you guys to take a look behind me as we talk about some of the training that we're able to do in our Hilton Main Lagoon area as well.
Take 2.
Now, folks, if there's anything you were hoping to see or talk about as our episodes continue on, we encourage you to comment on our posts so that we can have a better idea of what you guys are interested in learning about here at Dolphin Quest Hawaii and at our other locations in Oahu and Bermuda. We want to let you know that life here carries on as normal. These dolphins will continue to get the best care, all of the love in the world, the best food, the best health care and training possible as we navigate these uncertain times. And we hope that as you carry on throughout your week, you can take some of this joy with you. And possibly join us here tomorrow on Facebook Live so that we can introduce you to a few more members of our Dolphin Ohana. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Aloha!